Tuesday, the 15th of November 2022. Good afternoon, everyone, on this wet and miserable day. And welcome to this extraordinary meeting of the Environment and Rural and Communities Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I am Councillor Sarah Trotter, Chairman of the Rural and Communities OSC, and welcome Gloria Johnson, who is the Vice Chairman of the Environment OSC. Also want to welcome Amy, who will be acting as our Democratics Officer today. Welcome, Amy. So I will be chairing the meeting today. I also want to say good afternoon and welcome to our two guest Alliance SK members, Councillor Ashley Baxter, Councillor Phil Dilks. Welcome. And I think Councillor Moran, who's walking in very ably with her cups of coffee, not to draw attention. And welcome to all members, non-members and officers. I've not been made aware of any fire alarm sounding during the meeting, but should they do so, please leave by the nearest exit and make your way outside to the green opposite at the front of the building on St. Peter's Hill. Councillors and officers, please ensure your mobile phones are switched off or onto silent mode. Thank you. Councillor Johnson and I will be monitoring this chamber for questions. Please indicate by raising your hand when it is time for you to speak, and please ensure your microphone is switched on. This meeting is being live streamed and the recordings are retained in accordance with the Council's document retention policy. Moving to the agenda we have in front of us. Can I move to item 1, please? Apologies for absence. I'm going to ask Amy to do a roll call, and then we'll find out who's missing and who the substitutes are. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We've received apologies from Councillor Ben Green, and Councillor Cathy Rice-Oxley will be substituting Councillor Ben Green, and Councillor Ashley Baxter and Councillor Phil Dilks will be filling the Alliance SK vacancies today. And I'll just take a roll call. Councillor Nikki Mansfield.
Yes, here.
Councillor Gloria Johnson.
Present.
Councillor Cathy Rice-Oxley.
Present.
Councillor Penny Milnes.
Present.
Councillor Hannah Westrop.
Present.
Councillor Ashley Baxter.
Present.
Councillor Sarah Trotter.
Present.
Councillor Barry Dobson. Councillor Richard Cleaver.
Present.
Councillor Richard Dixon Warren.
Present.
Councillor Hilary Westrop.
Present.
Councillor Ray Wootton.
Present.
And Councillor Phil Dilks.
Present, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Amy. And I just want to welcome Councillor Rice-Oxley. And I'm sorry I didn't welcome you in the first meeting. It's just a sea of faces today, but thank you and good afternoon. So item 2 is declarations of interest. Are there any members who have an interest to declare before we work through the agenda? Should any matters arise during the meeting, please declare your interest. So we move. Oh, yes, sorry, Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself, but I have asked 2 or 3 times since the weekend for clarity from the monitoring officer about the exempt papers. In exempt paper 2.
Can I just stop you there, Councillor Baxter? Yeah, and you did outline just getting a little bit ahead of yourself. I promise when we move into the full meeting, item 3, we will discuss matters as such, but just at the moment, I'm just concentrating on declarations of interest. So thank you, Councillor Baxter. So I move to item 3, the grounds maintenance future arrangements. Well, can I please ask our leader, Councillor Callum Cook, please? I understand he wishes to speak. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chairman, and thank you for allowing me to address your committee And I would first of all like to thank all of the officers present for preparing the report before us today. I know how much hard work has gone into this, not just by
Order.
officers.
Yes,
Thank you. I would, before we start discussing item 3, I would like to ask for clarity as to whether or not the directors of Environment SK should be in the room and or participating in the debate.
are you able to respond, Graham Watts, Alan Robinson? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. As there's no decision being taken today by the committee, it's just a recommendation from this body. There's no requirement for the directors of Environment SK to declare an interest at this stage of the proceedings.
Thank you for clarification, Graham. Councillor Cook, our leader, if you would like to speak, thank you. Oh, sorry, Councillor Baxter, are you happy with that?
No, I'm certainly
No,
not
I
happy
didn't
with
think-
that. I can't see any reason why it would be appropriate to discuss the future of recommendation about recommendation 4 to talk about dissolving the council's wholly owned company Environment SK in the presence of the directors of Environment SK. I am astounded that that
Yeah.
is the decision of the deputy monitoring officer. However, I also wanted to put the point that that I tried to put earlier on, which is that I have asked for clarity from the monitoring officer 3 times since the weekend about the paperwork. And I wanted to ask that before the monitoring officer, who is also a director of Environment SK, leaves the room. My question is,
Sorry, Councillor, I'm not trying to interrupt you, but I just want to explain. If we could let Councillor Cook speak, it may become all but a bit more clearer to you. So I'll ask Councillor Cook to speak. It is, yeah. Yeah, Alan, sorry, I didn't realise you were wanting to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. So we have sent a response, obviously, while Councillor Baxter was travelling, so my apologies for the delay. So I can just read out what I've said, or what Graham passed on. So further to your email, I can confirm that it's only the figures that are commercially sensitive, as they reveal the operational charges of Environment SK to undertake the work. So of the element of the paper you were referring to, the changes, they're fine to be discussed in open session, but what isn't possible to be discussed is the costs and the costings around those. So, and I think that's, you were asking whether you could reveal the cost. So I think that answers the query as I see it. So sorry for the delay and sorry that you've missed the email.
Councillor Baxter.
Chair, for the benefit of people watching along at home that may not have seen the the correspondence between myself and the monitoring officer, the question that the monitoring officer has just answered is in response to the question in exempt appendix 2, is it possible to release the first 3 columns, which I'm grateful for the clarification, and I now see that we can not only reveal the first 3 columns of exempt appendix 2, but also talk about them in public open session. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you happy to continue, Councillor Cook?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Before you do, Madam Chairman, may I raise a point of order?
Councillor Dilks, can I just say a few words and then I'll.
Well, the reason was, Madam Chairman, sorry,
Councillor Dilks,
you're very kind.
the reason that I'm wishing Councillor Cook to continue is it is in relation to what you are, Councillor Baxter is discussing in the pink papers. And I believe probably your question is linked in. I need to ask Councillor Callum Cook to speak and then we can take it from there. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you for allowing me to speak at the beginning of this meeting. Well, I would firstly like to begin by thanking the officers present for preparing the report before us today, especially as I know that a lot of hard work has gone into this area of work, not just by our officers, but also by our elected members as well in terms of the workshop. And I would like to thank our officers for their integrity, their honesty, and all of the work that they have undertaken. Before we have as today, obviously, is the report. I would like to recommend to you, Madam Chair, that there is a proposal to change the recommendations. As the procurement process previously undertaken did not deliver any significant interest, as we are all aware, I do not think we can make a decision at this time on the preferred recommendations for our ground maintenance service without fully exploring the opportunities around a commercial operator. Therefore, in recognition of this, I would like to propose the following recommendation: that the Joint Environment Overview and Scrutiny Committee and Rural and Communities Overview and Scrutiny Committee is asked to recommend the Cabinet Member for Waste request that officers commence a new procurement process in order to seek proposals from providers of grounds maintenance services on the new grounds maintenance specification that has been developed to ensure that the Council has fully explored all available options. And this in no way challenges our officers' integrity, their honesty and their hard work on this report, but it will provide us with absolutely 100% clarity on the decision that we are taking and the way forwards. Therefore, the recommendations in the report I would propose are deferred to a future joint meeting, and that we recommend, and I'll repeat it again, recommend that the Cabinet Member for Waste request that officers commence a new procurement process in order to seek proposals from providers of grounds maintenance services on the new grounds maintenance specification that has been developed to ensure that the Council has fully explored all available options. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I, before I take questions, can I ask for a proposer, please, for this recommendation?
I'd like to propose that recommendation and also add my thanks to the officers for all their hard work and determination to achieve what we're asking them to do. Thank you.
Point of order.
Thank you, Gloria. Yeah, and yes, and can I have a
Sorry,
seconder, please, for
Point of
the
orders take
recommendation?
precedence.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to second this. I think it's
Councillor
Point of orders
Barrow-Dodson,
take precedence.
to the point of order.
Thank you. The Constitution does say, and I'm sure that the chairs of committees heard it in their training, that point of orders have to be heard immediately. My point of order is.
Actually, Councillor Baxter, you never said a point of order, just had your hand up.
No, I said point of order several times.
Check the tape.
Check the tape.
Yeah, check the tape.
Councillor Baxter, do you want to give your point of order, please? I'll give
Yes.
you the opportunity now.
Yes, I would like clarification of whether it is in order for a member of the Cabinet who is not mentioned on the report to suggest to the committee what we propose or we do not propose. Surely it's for the committee to make proposals. It's also, I think, unconstitutional for the leader without the committee being asked, or for any other Cabinet member without being asked, to start commenting on reports which are not in their name. I would like to ask, where is Councillor Whittington today? Councillor Mark Whittington. Is there? Okay. In that case, I would like to ask why he isn't presenting this report and the amendments. And I would also like to ask, when did you, Chair, find out about these last minute changes that the leader has obviously got written down in front of him? And can we have a copy of the written thing, please?
I'm looking at Graham Allen. Do you wish to respond to Councillor Baxter first, and then obviously I will comment?
My only response to that is that it's your discretion to allow any member to speak at this meeting. So if you use your discretion to allow the leader of the council to make a presentation, then that's your prerogative. The leader may well make a recommendation to the committee. It's the committee's prerogative to propose and second that recommendation, Chairman.
Thank you for that clarity. And obviously it was my discretion that for Gloria to propose the recommendation and Councillor Dobson to second the proposal. And I just want to may I remind non-members that it is the chairman's discretion for non-members to speak, and I'd ask that committee members take priority for questions. Okay, could I just say, you haven't got your microphone on, you haven't put your hands up, so I just want this meeting to run as smoothly as possible. Thank you. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Baxter?
Yes, please. I would like to say that it seems to be a different rule when a member of the administration who is not on the committee wishes to speak out of order than when a member of the opposition wishes to speak out of order. I would also say at this point that it is very strange that a former director of Environment SK is able to second the motion to shut it, to push this down, kick this can down the road.
Thank you, councillor Baxter. Councillor Adam Stokes.
I'm just, I want some clarity from councillor Baxter who the seconder is, and former director of Environment SK, because I don't recall councillor Dobson being involved in that company.
I apologise, Chair. It's very hard to keep track with all these companies popping up and being shut down.
Please, can I ask for order, please, and politeness? Councillor Dilks.
Thank you. I have been to a meeting not reasonably recently where it was quite clear those who were even directors of some of our arm's length companies hadn't even got a clue that they were directors, Madam Chairman, and it was for Councillor Baxter to point out who actually was when we were changing the deck chairs on the Titanic. But there we are. The point I wanted to make, and thank you, was to support the point of order. And I hear the explanation. Well, I don't hear the explanation, but for goodness sake, it is highly irregular for the leader of the council to come along to a scrutiny committee that is here to hold the leader and executive to account and to scrutinise their decisions, effectively to tell us what to do. And then for a member of his group to immediately say, oh yeah, we'll back that, we'll do that. We're basically being told what to do. And it's not just highly irregular, it is absolutely disgraceful that it is happening, because I've got a list of papers here that I took the time to read online last night before I came, and we come to a meeting, oh yeah, we're going to change all that. What we've heard that you want to change things. We haven't actually been told why we want to change things. Except to say that we're going to have let's have another go and see if we can get interest from the market. As it says in the papers, the reason we didn't have interest in the market was, and it says at paragraph 212, is the market did not have confidence that this council would actually issue a contract.
Councillor Dilks.
I just wonder if we can get back to the constitution.
Right, Councillor Dilks, we're here today. We've heard the recommendation, just in answer to, and I don't want to be interrupted just while I speak. I've seen a copy of the recommendation in front of me in the pre-meet today, and I've read it. The whole point of us being here today is to discuss it, and I want to have a healthy discussion amongst us all. And I will remind that I'll be giving members preference to speak first, non-members, and then it's at my discretion who speaks. And obviously, if there's any questions either to Councillor Whittington or to the officers, then that's great, I'll take them. So I want to move on now. Right, who was first? Councillor Dilks.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As you said that you were advised of that at the pre-meeting, presumably it was in writing. If so, and even if not, can we have the amendment, please, in writing to all members of the committee as per the constitution?
Thank you, just bear with me.
About to say it is being sent out to everyone.
Yeah. Emailed, is that being emailed? Printed. As soon as we've got copies, they'll be presented to you. If you want me to read it out again, I'm quite happy to read it out for you.
Point of order. I don't know at what 11th hour the leader decided that he wanted to take a different strategy and to tell the scrutiny to go in a different direction. But if you've had a printed copy, I see no reason why we all shouldn't have had a printed copy before the meeting even started. And I don't understand why we haven't got one now.
I accept your request. It is being printed as we speak. I suggest that we move on into discussion and speak about the recommendation.
Point of order. I would like to ask that this meeting be adjourned until we've got the relevant paperwork in front of us. It's bad enough having to make decisions about things that we've only just been told about, but not even having the information we've been told about is not acceptable.
I'm quite happy to read out the recommendation again for you. It's been printed. I'm sorry, we can't just get it from thin air. Councillor Cleaver.
Sorry, I should like to second the proposal that we adjourn until we have a printed copy, please.
Okay. I accept that we're not going to move forward until this has been done. So we'll adjourn the meeting for 10 minutes. So it's just gone 2:20. So if we can come back here just after 2:25, please. Thank you. Everyone back, looking around the room. I'm happy to proceed. Has everyone had chance to digest the papers? Thank you. You okay, Amy? So I understand, I'm going to take a question from Councillor Cleaver, please.
Just for clarity, really, on procedure and how we can take the debate forward logically. The leader's proposal mentions that we go ahead on the new specification that's been developed. But what that was exactly one of the major things, what was the first of the 4 points that our original agenda was pointing us towards. So it seems to me logical that we decide whether we want to approve the new specification first, and then we decide what we're going to do with that new specification. So I don't think we can defer all 4, as was suggested, all 4 of the points. We can defer 2, 3, and 4, but we still have to debate whether the specification is what this council is most appropriate for this council. And then once we've decided that, we then decide what the procurement process should be for that specification. That just seems to me a logical way for us to proceed from here on in the rest of the meeting.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Cleaver. Who would like to respond to Councillor Cleaver's question, please? Councillor Whittington.
Madam Chairman, I'm actually going to raise a point of order, actually, because we are currently debating an amendment, and now surely the debate on the amendment needs to go first. Because these 4 recommendations are the original substantive, so surely we need to debate the amendment first and then take a vote on the amendment and then see if that then becomes the substantive motion. So just on a point of order, I think we only have to debate the recommendation on the sheet that's just been circulated.
Thank you, Councillor Whittington. Graham, our Democratic officer.
Thank you, Chairman. So in relation to the motion under debate, the recommendations in the original agenda pack are recommendations, but they haven't been moved or seconded. What's been moved and seconded is a motion. So that is the motion that is on the table for debate. That's been proposed and seconded. So it's not an amendment, it's a motion that's been proposed and seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Watts. Oh, sorry.
Promotion or demotion?
Thank you. My apologies, Graham. Councillor Milnes.
I'm still very confused as to the wording in the new amendment, which seems to assume that the new grounds maintenance specification has been developed, but obviously it hasn't yet been agreed. So can we have clarification on exactly what that means, please, before we debate it? Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Baxter. I'll just let Councillor Milnes have a response.
I mean, that's what I was going to say, Chair.
Just sorry, can we just wait? Yeah. I'm just waiting for the Chief Executive.
Point of order, Chair. The question is about the proposal that has been put to the council. The proposal was put to the council by Councillor Johnson. If anyone should be explaining why this proposal has come forward, it should be Councillor Johnson.
Not a problem, Councillor Baxter. The proposal is that this paper, we start again, basically. We start again. We're going out to procurement, which is what some members wanted. And then the new paper will be presented at a later date that we will vote on and go forward. That's my proposal.
Councillor Milnes.
Yes, thank you, Gloria, for that. It still doesn't answer the clarification of, are we accepting the new grounds maintenance specifications or not? Because they were one of the things to be discussed and either agreed or not agreed. So we seem to be slightly jumping the gun there. Are we agreeing them or are we reconsidering them? That's what the clarification is, I think.
Thank you, councillor Mills. I understand our Chief Executive, Karen Bradford, wishes to respond.
Thank you, Chairman. Hopefully I can help a little bit. On page 17, if I can draw members' attention to it, it is the pink paper, so I will certainly be careful around about what I say. We have an original specification which Environment SK have been delivering for us for a period of time. Now, as you're aware, there's been significant pieces of work done on developing up that specification documents and the mapping of all of the areas to support that specification, even though that was a specification that they are contracted to deliver. What we have considered, and this refers back to the paper which is in the public domain, which is on page 10, 2.19, is that because of the financial challenges of that the local authority find themselves in, there is a proposal for a revised specification level, which is covered back into page 17. So there's an original specification and there's a revised specification. What recommendation 1 was clarifying today is to say that the proposed changes as detailed in that appendix in grounds maintenance specification be adopted. So hopefully this is helping. I know Councillor Cleaver's looking at me as if to say like I'm talking in a different language, but hopefully it's helping. So if the recommendation that Councillor Cook has proposed to the committee, that's been proposed and seconded by committee members, also supports the amendment to the specification, we can go to contract seeking a price on the original specification and the amended specification. Is that helpful? Hopefully.
Penny, councillor Mills.
Yes, thank you, Karen, for that. I think I understand that. I still don't understand whether we should be agreeing that first as per the first recommendation and then carrying it forward, if that's what happens, into this amendment. Now, if the amendment has to be considered first, it's a bit which comes first, the cart, the horse, or the donkey? I don't know. That's what I'm confused about.
Thank you, councillor Mills. Oh, Karen Bradford.
I can see what councillor Mills is saying because recommendation 1 refers to the specification. But if you look at just referring back to the revised or the proposed recommendation that has been put round to the committee today, it does make reference to the new grounds maintenance specification. Therefore, I would interpret that you are happy with the proposals of the, if you did support that recommendations, that you're happy with the proposals as laid out in Appendix 2 on page 17.
I think that's my point, but we don't know that yet, do we? We haven't actually discussed and made a recommendation as per the first recommendation. That is being suggested to be deferred by this new motion. So again, which should come first?
I'll just take the question from councillor Cleaver and then if anyone wants to respond to councillor Mills.
Really, just an observation. I think what the chief executive has said reinforces the point. There are 2 separate issues here. One is, does this scrutiny committee, having properly scrutinized the revised specification, think it is appropriate? And then there is the second issue as to how we go out to procurement on that revised specification based on the debate we've had on it. It's just 2 separate issues and one logically follows the other in order. I don't think there's anything particularly controversial about that.
Thank you. I'll take a question from councillor Manderfield, our Chairman of Environment. Thank you, Nikki.
I think what we're trying to gather is that we're going to act to procurement on both the current and the new specification. So that actual second specification would be talked about, but I'm sure that's what Karen Bradford just said that it'd go out procurement for both specifications.
I'll just take one more question from councillor Dilks, and then we'll see if there's a reply to.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. That's not what it says in the piece of paper that we've all just been given. That's why I asked for the bit of paper, so we can be clear, if possible, you know, given all the 11th hour nonsense and the chaos and incompetence of today. It doesn't say that we're going to seek proposals from providers of ground maintenance services on the new grounds maintenance spec and the new one, and the old one, sorry. It just says on the new one. So that's you know, that needs to be changed if that's what we're going to do. I don't, you know, whatever we decide. But then related to that, we've got into you know, pink papers have been related to here. It is surely not a matter for pink papers and not a secret for us to be deciding today and talking today about, for example, how many cuts per year we will be doing or we would like to do to provide as a service. And that's what we've got into. So, you know, my question is, you know, what is the difference between the new specification and the old one? That should be an open matter. That should not be a secret at this stage. You know, as we've been told, only the figures are, and the figures are the financial figures, I'm assuming, that we're talking about. I do get the sense that we're making it up as we go along here, and it's absolute chaos. And what I would ask is, you know, if we are going to go along with, you know, what the leader's suggesting today and come along with at the 11th hour, what's changed? We've already had a procurement process on the existing specification, and we didn't get any interest because they didn't have confidence that the council was actually going to award a contract. That's what it says in the report. I mean, if I may, stop me if I'm getting into. But
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, just because I'm mindful that, you know, there's a lot of questions, a lot of ground to cover.
I understand.
I mean,
Sorry, Madam Chair.
you know, we want to get absolute clarity of the outside market, and I understand that councillor Cook wants to respond to you.
I think firstly, I mean, if we talk about in terms of the piece of work that's been taken on, the new specification, the old specification was, I think it was circa 20 to 25 years old. In terms of the detail on that, there's been an immense amount of work taking place on the new specification, which details every single piece of land we own, every single hedge, every tree, every piece of green space that we own. So we know exactly what needs to take place on those. And I think it's really clear that we now know what the standard is of all of those areas. And that piece of work has taken a significant amount of time. If we were to go out on our old specification, you're looking at maps that are over, 20 years old. We are now in the place where we can go to the market and make sure that we are absolutely 100% certain that there is no external people interested in the contract. And there may be people that are interested in the contract as well. But where we are is we've got a fantastic new specification which details all of our land. And for me, it's just being absolutely sure that when we take this decision, so, obviously we're here today to discuss it. Well, you are here today to discuss and scrutinise this report in front of you. That's the point of the scrutiny committee. There is no whip on this committee or anything else like that. But what I think we need to be absolutely sure before we make a decision is that we have fully tested the market. And that's not to challenge any of our officers' integrity or professionalism on that one. It's just to make sure absolutely we are where we are. But, the old specification is out of date. It is not, it is nowhere near where we need to be. We now are in the position where we have a specification that we should go out to the, market and just test it to make sure absolutely we are clear that this is the right decision for our authority and to get the best service for our residents.
Yeah, thank you. Can I just interject? Just off what we want to do the best for the residents. We need to save money. We've discussed the savings if we bring it in-house. And I agree, for absolute clarity, we should go to the outside market. But we are under time constraints as well, because grass grows, hedges grow. And I'm sure our residents out there just want their street scene, their grass, their hedges looking nice when in the spring seasons, everything's growing. There's no hidden agenda. We want to do the very best for our residents. And I agree, we're here to ask questions and scrutinise. Yeah, sorry, Councillor Cook, just to interject.
finish
Yeah,
it.
no, I absolutely go to you next, to
Just
Councillor
finish it,
Baxter.
Madam Chair, I appreciate.
Just one moment, everybody. Just one moment, everybody. Councillor Baxter, Councillor Dilks, you've spoke and you've spoke and you've spoke. Councillor Oxley has had her hand up for quite some time. So we need to let Councillor Oxley speak, but we'll let the leader speak first. Because she was before you.
Are we letting non-committee members speak before committee members?
She is a committee member today. She's a substitute.
Yeah.
Yes, and why are we letting a non-committee member speak
Councillor
before?
Baxter, please. You spoke without your microphone on, raising your voice. I will not allow that in this meeting. I want this meeting for the best of our residents. We've got a proposal here, which I want to discuss. Thank you. Councillor Cook, and then I will take a question. Okay, I'll stop for the point of order and get, what is your point of order?
How can it be correct to take comments from a person who is not a member of the committee, Councillor Cook, ahead of somebody who is a member of the committee today, Councillor Rice-Oxley?
Councillor Cook is the leader,
It's Chairman's discretion.
and my discretion, and which I did voice, that I want to listen to Councillor Cook first, and then I will go to Councillor Rice-Oxley to speak. Sorry. Can I do a point of order? Please, it is not a free-for-all. Can we continue?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Obviously, I appreciate in terms of the specification, obviously in terms of the report, it also talks about the number of cuts and everything else in terms of that specification. And obviously that does cause concern for a number of our residents and probably elected members in this chamber. And I think we also need to look at the national outlook financially for us in terms of local government, in terms of our cost savings and how that impacts us as well. And I think in terms of cut numbers, which may be one of the points that people would wish to raise at this meeting, obviously, if we do more, then there is a significant cost for that. And that is something also that this committee will have to consider as well in terms of balancing the budget for the whole of the council as well.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Councillor Rice-Oxley, do you wish to speak? Thank you for being patient.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, so just about the specifications. I think that there was an old specification that was very old, as the leaders just said, and which the chief executive and the team worked very hard on to fix. They've mapped everything, done an amazing job. So we have a new specification. That specification, I think, wait for corrections, I think has been operated for the last 3 or 4 months by ESK. And then at 2.19 in this report, it says that further work has been undertaken in collaboration with ESK to identify a range of options to amend the services because of budgeting concerns. So I think that what we're looking at the end, someone will correct me if I'm wrong. I think what we're looking at the end in the pink papers is the original, so the sort of current specification and the revised specification for budgetary reasons. I'm wondering, therefore, whether the leader's motion that we have here, the vice chairman's motion that we have here, because as the chief exec and Councillor Madfield has just said, when it goes out to procurement, we could ask for both the current spec and the new revised budget spec. And I think this is a great idea because external companies who might have possibilities of economies of scale, etc., they might, because obviously the original spec, sorry, I can't actually say any of these numbers. So people that can see the pink papers can see that the original spec is sort of more than the revised spec for budgetary reasons. So it's possible that external companies could be able to provide us with the current spec and not have to make those cuts because they have economies of scale, etc. So I think the chief exec's suggestion there. So I'm just wondering whether Councillor Johnson's motion as here might include those words, the providers for the new grounds maintenance specification, and include something which says both what ESK is working to now and the work that's been done to get the costs lower for budgetary reasons. Hope I'm making sense there. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. I understand that our chief executive wants to respond.
Thank you, Chairman. It's only to help and assist the committee with wording. And I think probably some of the wording that I've used is maybe confused. We had an original specification, which was not of the quality that we wanted. We did a significant piece of work to develop a new specification, which is very, very comprehensive. Probably what we've confused members of the committee by using the same word specification instead of probably frequency. So the way I think Councillor Rice-Oxley was saying, she was using specification a number of times, but it might help members of the committee. It's the base, a new specification, but as detailed in Appendix 2, it's 2 levels of frequencies, which we did procure when we went out to tender in July, but we can use the same structure to go back to the market now. So new specification, but different frequencies. So you've got an original frequency and a revised frequency. I'm just wondering if that wording would actually help in the committee's understanding. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Karen. Councillor Dilks, I understand you had your hand up.
Thanks, Madam Chairman. It is around that issue, if I could call it that. And I would just like further clarity. I mean, from what Councillor Cook's told us, the leader has told us, and it just seems that, am I right in thinking that we went to procurement, we went to invite tenders for a contract on a what you're telling us, Chief Executive, was a poor specification, that we didn't go on the previous specification then. We've gone on the new specification. So they've already told us that they're not interested. The market has told us they're not interested in the new specification, not the old one.
Madam Chairman, I can just confirm, yes, we did go out on the new specification with the new mapping system. So everything was there on the portal for the contractors. At week 4 of that contract, we'd had no interest whatsoever other than seeking clarifications on were we just testing the market at the time.
So if we're talking then about, if what we're talking about we're talking about saving money by reducing the level of service that we provide, by reducing the number of cuts, etc., if I'm allowed to say that, that seems to be confusing the issue. That isn't a reason to change the overall who actually does these things, is it? And people are looking at me odd, I'm perhaps not making myself clear, but what I'm saying is, we're being told all it's smoke and mirrors, frankly, all these things that we're in this report, the whole report, smoke and mirrors in my estimation, unless people can clarify it for me. But what I'm saying is, if we've got, an old specification and a new spec, and now, we're looking at, it's proposed that we go out and ask for interest in cutting our hedges and doing grounds maintenance less than what we did before, and that's a decision to be made. I understand that, and to save money. I don't understand why we seem to be confusing that with the issue of who does it, whether we shut down Environment SK and quotes bring it in-house, or we ask commercial providers to do that. That's 2 separate things that we need to be looking at, and I don't understand why we're almost looking for excuses as to why we're going to shut Environment SK down what's stopping us going back to Environment SK, for example? I'm not advocating this and saying it's the best solution, but what's stopping us going back with them and saying, we've decided we don't need 10 cuts a year, we need 5 cuts, if that's what we're saying. Give us a price on that, please.
I'll get Karen Mark Whitting to respond. I understand your question, and that does need clarifying. Thank you.
Issue is the original procurement exercise was based on the new revised specification, which was based on X number of cuts. I'm not going to use actual numbers. I'm going to use the revised specification is Y cuts. So Y is less than X. So we're going out to the market again to see if on the revision to the new spec, what the market can actually come back in with prices, because potentially there is a difference between the two the new specification and the one that's revised, and it may very well be that the private sector, because of the way their companies are set up and in terms of how they cover their costs and their fixed costs, especially, they may actually be able to come back with a range of prices that is competitive for us. So it's because we've in effect got a revision to the new spec that we really do feel the need to test the market again. I hope that's clarifying the issue for.
Right, I'm going to take 3 more questions. I understand it's Councillor Cleaver next. Councillor Moran, I've got you down, and then Councillor Baxter. Thank you. Councillor Cleaver.
Thank you. I think most of the clarification I was seeking has now been given, but just to run through it again for absolute certainty. So the spec that had been in place for 25 years and no longer fit for purpose, which Councillor Cook referred to, was revised, and we went out to market based on the decision by Cabinet on the 12th of July. Okay, but that new specification, I don't think was actually ever approved by scrutiny itself, was it? But that's in the past now. So we now have a decision that we're going to pare back the scale of that new specification and have the cuts done less frequently, which I understand. Thank you for the clarification, Chief Executive. But we're still not approved that specification or the revised specification. So I come back to my point that we should debate the appropriateness of the specification and the revised specification before we decide how we should procure it. Please.
Karen, you wish to respond? Chief Executive.
Thank you, Councillor Cleaver. Nearly right, I'd say. Please take that in the spirit it was said. I think, to be clear, that the original specification, which is detailed in Appendix 2, is what you've been operating for many, many years. Okay, so the frequencies there is what you've been operating, but a detailed specification sits behind that about how they do it, when they do it, and everything else about that. So very detailed. So that is what's been operational for many, many years. Okay, so hopefully that helps. So you wouldn't need to approve the original specification, because that's what you've been operating in for many years. In reference to the revised frequency, I'll refer it to there, still based on a new specification, that was also priced or put in the original procurement exercise. So once what we asked for was bidders to bid on the original frequency and on a revised frequency, and any other proposals where it could reduce the cost of the contract. So we were seeking the best possible value. So the proposal is to go back out with the same schedule of frequencies on the new specification to the market again. That is what was proposed and seconded in your committee today. Was that helpful, Councillor Cleaver? Although you're scowling at me. So just for clarification, that was in the original
as a pricing schedule, because when you get a bid back through the portal, the bidding schedule documentation that comes back on a tender, there would have been a number of layers of scheduling in there that gives us various prices based on different frequency rates. So if it's one hedge cut or if it's 10 hedge cuts, yeah, in a calendar year. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you. I'll now move to Councillor Moran. You have a question or a comment?
Thank you. It's like three little questions all around the same thing, really. I've been looking at the key considerations, which I'm assuming this report will come back at some point when we've done this extra reports thing. So I can't imagine the key considerations changing drastically. 3.1 says that insourcing the grounds maintenance service will provide the council with full operational control on how the service is delivered. That infers that we don't have control at the moment. So how did we lose it? It's a wholly owned company by SKDC. So why haven't we got full operational control? That's the first point. The second point is the service could be increased or reduced in line with service requirements, seasonal fluctuations, etc. The existing company can do that. So how are those key considerations? Surely the company can do that anyway. I mean, I'm no fan of outsourcing at all, but the way things are set up at the moment, I don't agree that it should have been done at all in the first place. But the one big advantage is that ESK as a wholly owned, as a company, can make a profit on things like cutting the grass for Trumpton Parish Council or whoever else we do it for. We can make a profit as a company. We're not allowed to do that if it's in-house services. And yet somehow we've got this £750,000 headline figure. And the final thing is, when ESK was first set up, this council lent them, whatever, £500,000. What's happening with that? Are we getting that back? Where is it? Or are we just writing it off? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moran. I can see Councillor Cook writing madly. Do you wish to respond or anyone else? Councillor Mark Whittington.
I'll happily come in on a bit, then hand over.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, in terms of operational control, when we had the contracts with both Glendale and then ESK, they were block contracts. So we were contracting in advance for a certain number of cuts per year. The reality is, for instance, last summer, because it was a particularly dry summer, there's only the requirement for 5 cuts. Unfortunately, under the terms of a block contract, you pay potentially for cuts that you don't actually have happen to you. So the whole point about bringing the contract back in-house is that if you get if that is eventually decided, the benefit of the insourcing around operational control is that if you get a dry summer like last summer, you'd only do 5 cuts. But if you had a wet summer, you might do 8 or 9 or 10. You would have some flexibility around that, which you don't get if you've got a block contract with either a private sector company, unless you negotiate a cost and volume type of contract. And again, that adds extra layers than a performance management and contract management that the council would have to do around that with the provider.
I'm going to allow Councillor Cook to also respond, and I have got you to speak. Bearing in mind, Councillor Baxter, I have let you, I want you to continue to ask questions, but I think while we're on the same subject, I'm going to let Councillor Cook respond to Councillor Moran's asked a question, and I would like clarifications. Thank you.
No, thank you, Madam Chairman. I think you did introduce me to speak, and then I think Mark just continued on when I started. I mean, in terms of the first question that Councillor Moran mentioned, in terms of in the key considerations, in terms about the full operational control, I think that's in terms of, as a wholly owned company, obviously it has a board of directors and it has a management company that then obviously manage that company. In terms of full operational control, that is, the direct line management by our own staff here at the organisation. And I'm sure Karen would love to have even more people under her jurisdiction as an organisation. It is then for us as a council to set a contract. It is then for that company to deliver that contract against the specification. It is then for our officers to assess the works that's going on and obviously make, commitments and communications to the company. So it's, in terms of fully operational control, it's really about just the council having that end-to-end control of both the contracts and also the staff. In terms of the £500,000, I'd like us to hand over to Mr. Wiles, our Chief Finance Officer.
Thank you. Just in terms of the loan, that was obviously a commercial arrangement between the council and the company when ESK was formed. That was primarily used to procure the assets that ESK need to operate and manage the contract from vehicles, but also to sit on mowers and hedging equipment and everything of that type. So if the company was dissolved in the future, those assets would return back to the council, and clearly those assets still have residual value on them because they were only procured 3 years ago. So that value of those assets would return to the council and would be identified on the council's balance sheet. So there would be an offset against the loan that was originally taken out. And of course, in the intervening period, ESK have been servicing that loan through interest payments and contributions towards the principal. But a full reconciliation of the loan and how much has been repaid and the value remaining on the assets would all be part of any formal decisions that are taken in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. I'm going to take a couple more questions, but I just want to reiterate that the finer details, we will be having a joint meeting after that we've gone out, the procurement's gone out to tender, and then obviously we'll have a full and in-depth discussion.
Point of order, you've said when we go out to tender, we haven't made that decision yet. And your job is to make sure that we do that in a balanced way.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. I will change my wording to if, but I would appreciate you not telling me what my job is, as I would not tell you your job. Thank you. Now, Councillor Cathy Rees-Oxley, and then I'll move to Councillor Baxter. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got 3 short questions. So if that's all right, if I just read 3, thank you. Okay, so 2.22 about the depot. We don't yet know if it were to come in-house, whether we would be able to use the ESK depot or a new depot. So I'm just wondering whether that would mean the building of a new depot or whether we have somewhere that we're thinking of converting or whatever. And do we have an idea of the cost or timescale regarding a new depot? Secondly, 2.26 about the process of the transfer of staff. So it says about if it were brought in-house, how we'd have consultations and bring the staff in. Just wondering if it's the same process, would staff be transferred to a new company if it were outsourced? So I'm unfamiliar what would happen there. And thirdly, 3.3, options are being explored to introduce charging for HRA assisted gardens. So that I think would have quite a significant impact on budgeting and so potentially on the procurement process as well. I was just wondering what stage we're at in that process. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I believe that those are questions that could be answered at a future meeting. So I'll move to Councillor Hannah Westrop, please.
Thank you very much. I mean, mine's just one short question, I guess, prefixed on the basis that if we were to go out to tender, this report would come back with the full options again. So we would be in a position to debate it in the future. Having worked on tenders as part of my job, I don't think I've ever submitted a tender probably more than an hour before the deadline. So can I just get some assurances that if we go back out to tender, please, can we take it to the deadline to be absolutely certain that we have gone through that process and that we've not shortened it and taken away an opportunity for somebody to submit?
Thank you, Councillor Westrop. I can see Councillor Cook wishes to respond. Thank you.
I think if I may address a couple of the points Councillor Rice Oxley asked, Madam Chairman.
Yes, of course, of course.
Obviously, in terms of the depot, we do believe that we have existing space on our existing site, so we could manage to hold that on that site if that is the decision that is taken. That's the question. Obviously, members are also aware in terms of our depot project plans, in terms of relocating our depot as well, and obviously that continues to be progressed as an organisation. And I'm forgetting some of the questions now. Yes, the staff would be 2 Peter Cross, which was that one. In terms of Councillor Westrop's question, yes, it would run for the full process, and that the previous time, the reason why it was closed early, we all saw the obviously the decision that was taken in consultation with myself and others, and obviously that was with the advice of our senior procurement officer and senior officers.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. I'm going to take a question from Councillor Baxter, and then I feel that we just need clarification whether we should have an amendment for the specification, and then I would like, when that's confirmed, I'd like to move to the vote. And thank you. Thank you, Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. I've been waiting for a while. The decision that this committee made in June, was that the Environment Overview Scrutiny Committee and Rural Communities Overview Scrutiny Committee supports the investigation of the possible options in respect of future delivery options of the grounds maintenance service, and recommends to Cabinet that procurement commences to assess the future delivery options of the grounds maintenance service. Are we saying that that hasn't happened? If it has happened, why are we saying that we want to do it all over again? It says clearly in the report that we've been out to the market. So why are we doing it all over again? We also, I wanted to come back on Councillor Whittington's point. He said that the market might be more interested with the different frequency of cutting. I'm not a captain of industry or an accountant, a qualified accountant. But I wonder what kind of organisation would get an initial offer of, would you like to cut our grass 10 times a year, and say, no, thanks. And then 3 months later, we say, do you want to cut our grass only 7 times a year? And suddenly they say, oh yeah, that fits with our business objectives entirely. Why would they be any more interested for less work? Doesn't make any sense at all. I still don't get the loan. If we went to the outside, if we did decide to outsource for service to the previous lot, Glendale or any other service provider, what happens to our loan then? We inherit a load of 3-year-old lawnmowers. We, the council, lent this organisation £571,000.
Can I just stop you there, Councillor Baxter? I think we're verging on to a different discussion, and I want to keep it streamlined and discuss the recommendation in front of me today.
Sorry, in what way have I gone offline? In what way have I diverged? I'm talking about the loan that was given to Environment SK. The whole point of this is that people have realised that Environment SK is lost, is directionless. It's got no real business ambition, and that's why we're talking about whether we bring it in or whether we send it out. I am not going off the point. So there's the loan, and then also there's the issue.
Sorry, can I just stop you there?
Yeah, you don't want me speaking, of course you don't.
I've given you I have to say, as chairman, I'm quite happy to listen to your questions, and obviously you've had your hand raised and I've let you speak. I just want to rein back to what we're talking about, which is to recommend the Cabinet Member for Waste request that officers commence a new procurement process in order to seek proposals from providers of grounds maintenance services on the new grounds maintenance specification that are being developed to ensure that the council has fully explored all available options. And that is what we're discussing.
Which is what we decided in June.
Thank you. Councillor Dilks.
Thanks, Madam Chairman.
Yeah.
I would like to talk about the loan, but I remember 3 years ago, wasn't it? When Councillor Cook and several others were telling us about a cunning plan to actually take some of the profits that people were taking from cutting our grass. That was the whole point, and we were going to make great savings, but it wasn't just about savings. We were going to make great profits because we were going to go out to take in parish council work and other work, and we were going to make a lot of profits. That's what the cunning plan was all about. It wasn't just about saving money. We were going to make profits. We were going to do it much more efficiently than anybody else could. I find it a bit odd that now what we're doing is exactly the opposite. We're now wanting to go out to tender to give those profits that perhaps weren't there in the first place back to the commercial market. It just seems, 1 year we're sort of saying, oh, let's do this because, and now for exactly the opposite reason, we're now going out to tender. It just seems bonkers to me, the whole thing. So we haven't actually made those profits, and we can't even pay the loan back, or Environment SK can't even pay the loan back. I heard what Mr. Wiles said, but I seem to remember Mr. Wiles telling us that they'd stopped paying the loan, that they'd got a moratorium on paying back the loan. Is that right? How much of the loan have they paid back of the £570,000? It was a commercial loan, so there was interest with it. How much do they owe as of today on that loan, please? It would be nice to know. And how much do we now estimate that those used lawnmowers are worth? It ain't going to be £600,000. And the other thing on this paper that I do find is smoke and mirrors, the whole thing, it actually talks about taking back control, which we've heard that before, haven't we? It comes from, and it's all about us making big savings. Well, that's what we were told we were doing 3 years ago. Now we're making the big savings again by stopping them doing what they're doing. And it just seems value for money. As somebody said earlier, we all want to, do what's best value for money. I think in the past 3 years, how much has it cost us to go down the route we've been down? How much have we lost? And certainly the loan needs to be clarified today, if possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. You wish to respond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think there's just a few comments that I'd like to make. And obviously, I don't want this committee to be predetermined in terms of where it's going. So I think we need to be very careful when we're making comments about Environment SK, that company does have staff that are working for the company and that are working day in, day out around our district, making sure it is clean and tidy and the grass is being cut and everything else. So we need to be really careful with what we are saying about that, because I don't want individuals in that company to be feeling volatile with their employment, because we all know it's an incredibly challenging market at the present time to get grounds maintenance staff, as it is across a whole sector of employments. It is a challenging market for grounds maintenance, and particularly this sort of company. And I think it is a difficult time. It is a low profit business in terms of grounds maintenance as it is. And where we are is we are reviewing our options. And that's the point of where we are today. We're reviewing the options in terms of which way we go forward, whether it can continue to the SK, whether it comes back in-house, whether it goes out to the external market. For the first time in over 20 years, we now know exactly what's on our land. And I do not underestimate the amount of work that it has taken for us to get that understanding. So we now are secure in our minds in terms of what we are doing. And by going back out to the market, I want us to be 100% assured that we have explored all options for where we go into the future. That is why we're proposing to go back to the market, is to get that 100% assurance for those members, not challenging the integrity of the report or anything else like that. And I'd also be incredibly careful when we're referring to this report as smoke and mirrors. This has been drafted up and worked on by our most senior officers of this council. So that is directly challenging their work on this. So I'd be incredibly careful with some of the language we are using. And in terms of taking back control, it is taking back control in response or in respect of it potentially coming back in-house, in terms of that being the direct line management of those individuals, instead of being managed by a company, which is then managed by contract by the council. And I will repeat what I started with at the beginning. We all know that as an organisation and across the whole of the local government market, we have got to make savings. In the budget tomorrow, or sorry, in the budget on Thursday, I'm a day ahead, the budget on Thursday, we are not going to be getting a golden handshake from the government. It is an incredibly challenging time financially, and any way in which we can find savings as an organisation, whether that's through integration, whether that's through improvement, need to be looked at. And this is one of our significant areas where we do have expense, and that is why we are looking at this piece of work. And that is why I think it is the right thing to just test the market again. We come back, we review all of this report, we go through every single piece of detail, and then we make the decision that is right for us as an organisation, for the future, financially, and for our residents.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. I've just got one more question from my Vice Chairman, Councillor Johnson.
Well, I made a proposal right at the very beginning of this meeting, and I would like to just change that proposal a little bit, and then I'd like to, if possible, go to the vote, because I think lots of questions have been asked and we're going round and round in circles over the same thing. The problem seems to be on the spec. Now that we're going through to ask these companies to quote on the spec that we've already gone through. I can't see any problems with the spec that we're asking them to quote for. If anyone's got any problems with the spec, then perhaps they ought to speak up and say so. But I want to go through with this proposal to go with the spec and go out to the wider range to get the quotes in, and then we can move forward. We might even come back to the original proposal of bringing it all back in the House quite a while ago. But let's go to the market. Please, can we move forward and stop going round and round in circles? That's my proposal. If Barry's quite happy to second the proposal to include the specs, then I suggest we go to the vote.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. And discussing the matter long enough now. Questions.
Questions. You've taken as of making the same decision as we made in June is a good idea now. I think that you should at least hear out the other before we go to the vote on a motion that Councillor Johnson's only just this minute put forward with no discussion at all.
Thank you. When I introduced the meeting, I said, if anyone's got a question, please raise your hand. I appreciate you've raised your hand and I've taken your questions. I cannot see any of the hands raised. My discretion, and you talk over me, which I don't accept. Can we move to the vote, please? If you wish me to read out, I've read out the motion once before. Are we all happy? We know what.
Chairman, you've changed the proposition.
Just take the questions on the ground, putting up the grass and nothing else.
Okay. I'm just going to take questions on the cutting of the grass and then we will move to the vote. Thank you. Has anyone got any questions? The only change to the motion. So, Councillor Baxter, you did have your hand up first.
Yes. I'm quite frustrated that we're not allowed to come back to the comments that have been made with all kinds of anomalies within what we are being told. However, if you want questions about cutting the grass, then I would draw your attention to the exempt appendix. I'm not going to talk about the figures. I'm going to say, when did this council, any committee or cabinet or any other meeting, when did this council agree to cut the hedge cutting from 2 cuts a year to 1 cut a year? When did we agree to cut the shrub bed maintenance from 4 cuts a year to 2 cuts a year? When did we agree to change the hard surface sweeping from weekly to monthly? We haven't discussed that at all. So whatever we go, as Councillor Cleaver pointed out earlier on, whatever we go out to the marketplace with, we should at least as a council agree that that's the specification we want, because if we go out with a reduced number of cuts and then suddenly the council says that's not good enough, we're going to have the same situation as we had with Glendale all those years ago, where every time we wanted to alter the specification or do an extra cut, they were making us pay through the nose.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. Chief Executive Karen Bradford.
Thank you, Chairman. Hopefully I can help with clearly hearing some frustration in the room. So if we can refer back to Appendix 2, the original specification and the revised specification, if I can assure you that the original specification was what we're working to already, that frequency is what we're working to already, other than we are actually only with the ESK at the present time doing one hedge cut, but we'd considered it would be appropriate and better managing of our estate if there was 2 hedge cuts. So there was actually an improvement to the frequency that we're undertaking at the present time. That no occasion, Chairman, has a decision been taken to move to the revised specification. That would be a decision or a recommendation coming from this committee to Cabinet, but on predicated on going to procurement, we would seek a price on both and any other options that the contractor could consider that would reduce the cost of the contract. So the contract, so just to clarify, if we do go back to procurement, it's based on option Appendix 2, the original frequency and the new and a proposed revised frequency. So we would get a price on both. Those prices come back to you as a committee. Along with the price that we've been developing for an insourcing model, then it would be for this committee to recommend to Cabinet which option to go with, predicated on the costs of that contract. And I suppose that's where I come from, is we haven't got this year's settlement figure from the government. We're promised it late December. And there may be some very difficult decisions if we can't afford, with the increase in staffing costs and the increase in utility costs, what we would like to be providing, so what we can afford to provide. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for clarification, Karen. Councillor Cleaver, I am mindful that we are going round in circles. I admit, you know, we have to take questions. We're a scrutiny committee, but we need to move forward and we need to take a vote and we need to get that procurement submitted and the tender and get our grasses one way or the other cut in May. So I'll take 3 more questions actually. I've got Councillor Cleaver, Councillor Cleaver first, Councillor Mills and Councillor Dilks. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wish to make an observation on the basis that this is a scrutiny committee. And therefore our role is to scrutinise and make recommendations to Cabinet. And let's not lose sight of that. We're not an executive committee. We're a scrutiny committee, and we're scrutinising the reasons behind the decisions that Cabinet has to take and why they're there, and look into the detail behind decisions to try and reinforce good decision making within the council. That's the role of the scrutiny committee. And therefore, when I see column 1 original specification, column 2 revised specification, which I understand the point, it's the same specification but fewer cuts and fewer frequencies, I'm still not seeing anything in the accompanying paper which justifies or discusses the pros and cons of the reduction proposed in the number of cuts. And that's just a point of principle about good scrutiny and good paperwork going to scrutiny committees. Thank you.
Thank you for outlining that. Councillor Mills, thank you.
Yes, I was just wondering if we were going to put a timescale on this as to how long the review of options will take and when it will return to this committee.
Yeah, Councillor Cook, do you wish to respond? Thank you.
Also, you are coming to me, sorry. Yes, so in terms of going out to the market, I think we're reasonably confident we can go back to the market next week. Obviously, there'll be then a 6-week window, and then it will come back to this. There'll be a joint scrutiny committee following that. But it will be done and decided, prior to our budget setting meeting.
Thank you. I'm going to let Councillor Dobson speak because he's been waiting patiently. We've not heard you ask a question. Go ahead.
No
And
problem,
then I'll
Madam
take the
Chair.
question
Thank you very much.
from Councillor Dilks.
I would just like to try and clarify this so we can come to a conclusion as you really want to. I quite like the recommendation, which we now all have a copy of, which is to recommend the Cabinet Member for Waste request the officers commence a new procurement process in order to seek proposals from providers of ground maintenance services on the new grounds maintenance specification that has been developed to ensure that the council has fully explored our options. And to that, we should use Appendix 2 in the paper, which we have the original specification, and then we have the revised frequency, or the frequency we're calling them, whether we go out for both of those and ask them, what the prices of each one of those are. And then I think we can discuss it. And if you're all agreed, that is the way I think I would propose that we go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson. Go ahead.
Point of order. Councillor Dobson has helpfully read the original proposal that Councillor Johnson recommended an hour and a half ago. I thought that Councillor Johnson had amended her proposal, and I thought Councillor Dobson. So
we've got a copy of it.
So I don't understand what's changed because Councillor Dobson just read out the original.
Councillor,
don't believe that Councillor Johnson's revised motion ever got seconded, so therefore it's not extant.
Check the tape, Chair. It was seconded by Councillor Dobson.
Sorry, can we just stop? Councillor Johnson.
I did make the proposal and I did ask Councillor Dobson, and I was under the impression that he just nodded his head and said yes.
Not only for the original. Sorry, not for
Okay,
the
so
second.
you didn't second the proposal then with the added going for the cuts.
I believe I've got a question from Councillor Dilks.
Thanks, Madam Chairman. It's muddier and muddier, doesn't it? First of all, I mean, I've just got to say, for the leader to come today to a meeting and actually tell us what to do, as a scrutiny committee, or what he's actually saying is that he doesn't like the way what we've been, the recommendations that are before us, which are recommendations to his cabinet. And can you change it to recommend that his cabinet does something else? So it's a recommendation to his cabinet. It just sounds bizarre to me, and it's complete nonsense, and it doesn't separate. Are you calling a point of order? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Look, just for clarity, all I have come in here today is, and I attend many of our scrutiny committee meetings, as I'm very pleased to. All I'm saying is I'm not, you are not making a decision today in terms of recommending to council, but I think, we just need to be absolutely 100% sure when we take that decision that we've explored all the options. That's all I've come here today to reiterate.
Thank you, Councillor Cook.
Thank you. May I continue?
Yeah.
Thank you. I've said my thing. I've said my thing about the loan. Oh yes, yeah. I did ask questions. Madam Chairman, about the loan, and I think it's important that they are answered if they can be answered today, or when I'll get an answer on them. I was asking how much. I believe it was 571,000, wasn't it, that we loaned Environment SK? How much do they now owe? Are they still paying a regular amount back to us as agreed, or are they still getting the moratorium that I believe was mentioned the last time this was debated here? And what's the value of the current value, estimated value of the assets that would come back if it was devolved and we went down that road of devolving Environment SK? And then secondly, I might say, I've heard, I think it was Councillor Baxter said many years ago, the only thing that doesn't get cut now is the grass. But I do remember the former leader of this council bemoaning the fact and justifying creating Environment SK that the county council had reduced the number of cuts. And I've got a cutting at home. I actually saw it last night, meant to bring it with me. And he was actually saying, you know, oh, it's very sad that the county are cutting the number of, are making these cuts. And the problem is by cutting them, but by reducing the number of cuts, it means the grass has to be cut with a flail rather than a mower. And that was part of the justification for going down the route. So we really do need to look at that if we are reducing the number of cuts, whether that's still valid. I don't know, you know. But that's my sort of question on that. I can see the chief executive is knows the answer, so I'm sure she would tell us. But if somebody could tell us about the loan, that would be good. Thank you.
Chairman, I think if you want to go into the detail of the loan and the repayment, you're going to have to go into private session to share that detail. Because of valuations of the retained equipment. But if I can just answer one of your questions, Councillor Dilts, still in the public session. We do get the contract, ESK do get an amount paid to them from the County Council for cutting the verges, which I think is what you're referring to. And of course, these have all now been mapped, which is nice, in a different colour on the mapping system. If I can recall correctly, I think they pay for 3 cuts a year, but we don't do it 3 cuts, so we don't use a flailing machine. So we cut it at the same level as we cut all open space. So we are investing further as a district council to cutting those verges to keep the verges at the same level and quality as the rest of the open space.
I'm very grateful. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Dilts. Councillor Whittington.
In addition, the county council do operate a scheme with parish councils. And quite a lot of parish councils are also picking up those extra 2 cuts as well on grass that they've traditionally always cut. So there is a similar scheme in place for parish councils to make up the extra 2 cuts.
Thank you, Councillor Whittington.
Right, it would appear that I made a proposal and I didn't have a seconder for what I proposed the second time. I'm going to re-propose that because I think it's the best way forward, that we go with what's recommended. The Cabinet Member for Waste requests the officers commence a new procurement process in order to seek proposals from providers of ground maintenance services on the new grounds maintenance specification that has been developed to ensure that the council has fully explored all available options. And I would like to add that we follow the specifications that's being recommended. That is my proposal. Have I got a seconder, please?
Councillor Barry Dobson. Thank you. Thank you. We will now take a single. Right, can we have a bit of order? Thank you. We'll now take a single vote that we recommend to Cabinet to resubmit the recommendation to the new tender under the recommendation that's been put in front of us today. And I would like to go to the vote. Can I have a show of hands, please? All in favour for the recommendation? Thank you. All those against?
I would like we would like our votes recorded, please.
Yes, no problem. Thank you.
Abstentions?
Abstentions? Councillor Cleaver? Thank you. That motion is carried. Thank you.
Do you know, I've lost half a stone with all this.
Councillor, sorry, Chair, just before you close the meeting.
Yes,
just before
Councillor Baxter.
Just before you close the meeting,
yes.
I would like to propose that we go into private session in order that Councillor Dilks can get his answer.
I feel that what he's proposing is for our next meeting, when we go into the finer details, obviously, we've got a few processes to follow. And once that we have the dates, they will be circulated for a meeting. I think, we've had a good discussion today, which I thank everyone for their patience, particularly the officers who worked tirelessly. I'd like to mention Karen Whitfield, particularly, thank you. And so before we pack up our pencil cases and go, I just want to say on behalf of Gloria and myself, I thank everyone for attending this extraordinary meeting. And as I say, thank you for all the updates and the questions that have been asked. And I just wish you all a safe journey, and I'm sure we'll see you back here very soon. Thank